What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're going to be going through Port Adelaide's list for 2019 and doing a bit of list management, seeing who to delist, who to trade and who to be signing on for 2020. There's a lot of players to be looking at, and with as disappointing season as 2019 was, definitely some players will have to unfortunately miss out on getting selected into the 2020 season, or possibly have done good enough form to be able to make next year's list. But let's go through the list and see exactly what we're going to do and who's going to be cut ready for 2020. Let's go straight into the delistings, and who would I delist off the current list for 2020 for Port Adelaide. First of all, Aiden Johnson would be the one that I'd be delisting. Just hasn't had the input we would have liked from the kid. He's been very disappointing, to be honest, going through the SANFL, and hasn't quite lived up to the expectations that he put on himself when he had such a pretty reasonable first couple of debut games. But now he's gotten to the stage where unfortunately he isn't able to put out an AFL standard performance, and with his shock selection against Adelaide earlier in the year, it was sort of a last gasp ditch to try and get something out of him. But unfortunately it's not going to pan out for AJ. Cam Hewitt is the other one I'd be delisting. I don't think he hasn't had as big of an influence coming onto the list, and I think his sample form has been actually pretty good at stages, but just hasn't been able to be listed into the 22. So unfortunately he'd have to go. Jack Trengove, I think the amount of times he's had put out a performance to get selected into the team, you can't even count on your hands. It's that much, and I think for him now it's almost gone. I'd delist him because you've got to make these tough decisions, but at the same time I'd very much consider putting him on a rookie contract, or even like that leadership player that Sutcliffe is currently on, and I'd keep him for one more year. He's still in good touch, but I don't think with the way Ken Hinkley treated him without him being selected this year, I don't think he'll be on the list. Speaking of Sutcliffe, I don't know exactly what to do. For me, I think the best way to do it would be delist him, but pick him up in the rookie draft. I think that's the best way to do it. You know, it was a mid-year selection, and now coming into 2020, he again would preferably be playing in the Magpies. But I think he's got something to give, whether that's at SANFL or AFL level, not sure. But I'd delist him, put him on a rookie contract. Trent McKenzie. Now, a lot of people have seen him be in reasonable nick for the Magpies. Got his go against Fremantle in the last game of the season and actually showed something. And it did get me thinking, okay, maybe we should keep him on the list for next year, give him a one-year contract. But in the scheme of things, that doesn't do it justice in a dead rubber match. 2 games in 2 years is just not good enough, and a lot of people have been calling for big list changes, or, you know, make the tough calls, and he's one of them. He's going to be the tough call. I don't feel he's going to be able to sustain form, especially when you've got the likes of, you know, you've got halfbackers like Garner, you've got Bono who's there, you've got the likes of DBJ and all that coming through the ranks. There's a lot more to offer than a 28-year-old who's finding his feet towards the end of the season. But nonetheless, he may be kept. It'd be a very good Magpies player, and he's playing very well at the moment, so you just never know. I have chopped and changed this name so much, but I think delisting or putting Matthew Broadbent to the sword and say, mate, you've got to make a decision and probably retire is so tough. And I love Broady, but just at the moment, I don't feel like he's got the capabilities to continue on being in the side. And I think when you find the likes of Hammer being in good touch come next year, and I just don't know if he's got the capabilities to hold out with his body going into next season. Then again, I would definitely consider offering him a one-year deal, but it's tough choices that we've got to make. All right, let's move on to the trade bait that we have on our list at the moment. Not a lot. Quite a few have actually signed on contracts, and there has been plenty of rumours about Dougal Howard being put up for trade, and the Adelaide Crows coming after him, and Billy Frampton's another one that's getting a lot of interest from a lot of different clubs, but basically in every state. So it's one of those things where we've got to consider, and we've got a lot of tools and a lot of options there to move on. But in saying that, both Billy and Dougal I'd be keeping. Versatile players, aggressive. Dougal's got a lot of upside. Would be able to be the Westhoff type, and I definitely keep them on contract. But Paddy Ryder, it's all but gone. He'll go to St Kilda or Essendon come to the trade period. Unfortunately, he wanted a 2-year deal, and we as a football club stand by an unwritten rule of if you're over 30, you get a 1-year deal. No more, because your body won't hold up. Paddy's body is probably the perfect example of why 1-year deals for 30-year plus players has come in. This is the fact that his body won't hold it. And I'm not going to give a player a 2-year contract on a player, on someone whose body doesn't look great and hasn't been able to put in a solid performance. And 2019's form wasn't particularly fantastic either. So unfortunately, Paddy will end up going. Sam Gray's another one that's been told to look elsewhere. I do like Sammy. I think he's got a lot to offer, but when you're looking at a side that's so inconsistent, he comes into the bracket of if he's not playing well, then Port aren't playing well, and you can't have those types of barometers in your team. You've got to have a barometer that's going to consistently put out a performance that you're going to say, look, he tried hard, he went at it, and I don't say Sammy doesn't do that. He certainly does, and he tries his best, but at the end of the day, when you're putting out performances that just quite aren't to the standard that a lot of the fans, a lot of the club expect, I think he's just falling out of favour a bit, and I think it's best for him to look for other options for both parties. It would probably be best. Sam Powell-Pepper's an interesting one. I do say he's trade bait, but I don't think he'll go. I think if you look at the youth, we've got a lot of players who are signing, a lot of upside with these players, and I think SPP is a part of our future. But he is a handy little hook to put in the water for a lot of clubs to come and bite and see who we can hook on. An extra couple of draft picks might come in handy for SPP, but not 100% on exactly how that would work. But I'd keep him, but he's there as trade bait. The other one I would trade. Well, it's not Carl Amon. Carl Amon's got to be the most. How do I put this? Carl Amon is the one player on the unsigned list that must get a contract, must put pen to paper, because he is the future. And now I say that with a high amount of upside with Carl Amon. I really believe in this kid. I've believed in him since he came onto our list. He's played games since 2015. A lot of people bagged him. I was included in that bagging. I didn't think he was up to it, but I always believed he had something, he had that potential, and he's starting to realise that. And when a player starts to realise the potential, you got to hold on to those players, because they're going to put out a performance like he has consistently throughout this year, and he's only going to get better. Put a bloody contract in front of him that he's going to like. That takes me to the signings, and Carl Amon's on that list. Billy Frampton's the other one. I did speak about that before. I think a 2-year deal, something like that, would come in handy. I know he loves playing for the footy club, and unfortunately the coaches don't seem to favour him as much as us fans do, but he's definitely someone to persist with. And when the likes of Todd Marshall and Charlie Dixon aren't putting out solid performances, you want Billy, and Billy could almost be our number one forward alongside Peter Laddams, who's going to be in the ruck, or having Charlie down there with Billy as well. Charlie can move up the ground a bit more, have Billy down deep, Peter Laddams running in the ruck with Lysette and chopping and changing. We'd have a dynamic forward line, all mobile and all aggressive. That's fantastic, and I'd keep Billy on that basis alone. The other one is Justin Westhoff. Give him a 1-year deal. He's over 30. He's going to play on, and I think he's capable of putting in another solid year. He did have stages this year where it was very much not to his standard we expected in 2018, but nonetheless, he was certainly able to consistently. He got moved down back. He was considered a key forward at one stage, and I think if he can find his position again on the wing, through the middle and on a half-forward flank like he was in 2018, then that 1-year deal will serve justice. But yeah, 1-year deal, and everyone else that's on the list considered trade bait. A lot of the players that I would have considered trade bait have actually been signed this year. The likes of Joe Atley, Riley Bonner, they've signed on, and we can't do much about that now that the club see them as the future, as we will as fans, and they'll continue to put out solid performances. And I expect, hopefully, with the players we do keep, the players we do pick up, are very much a vast improvement in our ability, and hopefully to push on to top 4. But that is my list management for the 2019 list. And let me know in the comments below what you're thinking of the listing. Who are you thinking about trading? Who is a must sign for you? So let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, Port fans. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide content and AFL content coming to you over the off season as we prepare for a big 2020 season. My name is Anthony, and as always, count the pair.